Howdy, damn it. Now, here I am thinking I'm coming off a sabbatical and I'm going to try and give you one of the best previews I've ever given in the history of this channel, right? And I come back to YouTube to find there are more subscribers to the channel. And I didn't get to reach out to all you so far. I mean, I just uploaded the hype video and that's where this is coming from. And so, out of the 100, 200 or so views I've gotten on some of the other videos that I've put out since coming back, I haven't hit that many people yet. So if you are watching the hype video and you decided you wanted to subscribe after that, I'm saying please don't. If you've been watching anything, you're watching this right now, look what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to get subscribers. I don't want them. I uploaded that hype video and I'm doing this tonight for you, the viewer. Subscribers and the pitch to sub to a channel, in my opinion, they're for the creator in large part. I don't want that. I want to make this for you and I want it to be just wholesome and for the love of the content, okay? If you think that's going to help your algorithm, by all means, go ahead. But I think you can probably do better by like sharing the link or something with your buddy. I'm looking for views. That tells me I'm doing a good job and I'm flattered by the subs, and that's great. But if you're watching this preview tonight and you feel compelled to do that, I'd like to say, hey, this is the channel that's getting the views with 0 subscribers. So if that were to happen, man, that'd be huge because it's all for y'all. So here is my 2025 Aggie football season preview. We're going to do this quick and then I'm going to jump into a bold prediction or two and then give you my rundown of game by game predictions for a win-loss projection. Okay, so let's jump into these games. I'm going to start off with UTSA. Preview coming out shortly because, y'all, we are 1 week away from football. Can you even believe it? I can't wait. I can't wait to get to Kyle Field. You got 1 week to figure out what you are doing in next Saturday to get yourself to Kyle and how you're going to get there. Okay, so UTSA, long story short, offense is pretty good. They got McCown coming back. A lot of pieces in the wide receiver core. The defense not looking too hot right now. So not going to be any story. You're not going to find anybody that's going to come in with a prediction of losing, or will you? As a matter of fact, if you look at some of the content out there, some people are saying to watch out for an Appalachian State type of upset. That's not happening, y'all. It's not happening. This team's probably going to score early and often. I think UTSA is going to move the ball. And I won't get into that too much again because we got a preview coming out. But I've got us winning in fine fashion pretty comfortably. And I'll leave it at that for now. Utah State's up next. It's going to be a handy win. It's going to be a handy win going into the Notre Dame game the following week that's going to be at South Bend. All right. This is going to be the game where we're going to find out what this team is made of. We're going to find out what the actual identity of this team is. And that is probably going to be a big storyline for this A&M team throughout the year. What is their identity? The first 2 games, I think you're going to probably come away thinking that the identity of this team is in the passing game. I think we're going to be able to move the ball much better than we have before. I think it's going to ooh and ah our fan base, and we're going to think this is a throwing team. Our offense has finally arrived. We're explosive. We can move the ball up and down the field. We're probably putting up 500 yards in both these first 2 games. So we're going to think our games through the air. But in reality, that's going to be masking where we've really been, and that's playing this game in the trenches, especially on the offensive line. Our offensive identity hopefully will be defined in this game against Notre Dame, but it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a tough team. They got the number 2 running back room, headlined by Love. This is a really, really good unit. Number 3 secondary, really quality defense all around. They've got a quarterback in CJ Carr who they think's going to be the next man up, coming in after Riley Leonard. Did a good job last year. I thought he played against us well. His legs really proved to be a bit more of a problem than we kind of thought they were going to be early on. But CJ Carr is not really that type of guy. He's a little bit more of a gunslinger, a little bit more of a pocket passer, and he's going to be kind of fresh. So, what is this game going to come down to? In my view, I'll leave that for the actual prediction piece, whether or not I'm going to pick us to win or them to win. But probably more than likely, this is going to come down to something in the fourth quarter. But I will say they lost some guys on the interior O line. They got some questions throughout there, but I don't really think they're questions. Last year they had a freshman left tackle that was coming in for a guy that was injured, and we thought, hey, this is going to be something that we can exploit. Didn't happen, right? Didn't happen. Guy came in, played phenomenally. So is he going to be kind of more of the same this year? I think Marcus Freeman's probably proved that that's part of his team identity at this point. Next man up. They did just make a trip to the college football championship. They're looking to make it back. It's going to be a tough one, y'all. So what they're going to be looking to do for us, from what I understand, is they're going to be trying to get pressure with a four-man front because they've got a really solid secondary. If they can do some of that without having to bring pressure on a regular basis, then they'll probably be able to force us into some situations that we're not going to like. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game for sure. Without getting to my prediction just yet, it's going to be close. It's going to be real, real close, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 20-20 for each team. That takes us on over to Auburn, though. We got a bye in between, and then we're going to get Auburn at home. It's a revenge game, right? Both teams have a lot of talent. Auburn has more talent than we'd like to give them credit for. Most of it's upper tier talent. Are they deep and thorough throughout? That's up for debate. But the high end talent they've got is unquestionable. Unquestionable. They have a really nice O line. They're rated top 10 in the country by PFF. Wide receivers are so much better with Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton. They get transfer over, number one transfer in the draft, and Eric Singleton. And I don't know if you don't know who Cam Coleman is, you need to take a look pretty quick. These two guys in combination with Jackson Arnold is a fierce combination with a quality offensive line, some serviceable backs. This is definitely going to be a team to watch out. Thankfully, we are going to get them at home. The storyline, however, though, is going to be with Jackson Arnold. Last year at OU, he's a guy that's struggling. He's coming out of the game. I don't want to say blaming, but there's issues with wide receivers getting hurt. At one point, their top 5 guys were out. They've got injuries on the offensive line, and really he was just kind of rushed all year long, didn't have anybody to throw to. So the idea is that this 5-star talent was just completely squelched because he really couldn't get the ball to anybody. There was no one to get it to. He didn't have time. Lots of mistakes ensued after that. So on the offensive side, that's probably the biggest deal that's going on. Defensively, some questions are looming here, but they've got a defensive end in Falk who is just he's kind of a terror. He's not a Dylan Stewart per se, from South Carolina, maybe the freakiest athlete in the country next to Lenora Sellers, foreshadowing that matchup. But Falk is a really, really good DN. Now, I do wonder about this team in regards to and thinking about how we were last year with Nick Scorton, Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart. There were some projections that there was going to be a lot more pressure that we were going to be getting on teams last year, and it just didn't materialize. And I wonder if that same thing's not going to be true of Auburn. Is Auburn actually going to get that pressure that we think Falk can do? And of course, he's probably going to be an NFL draft pick. But if you don't have some additional pieces to go along with that, I think you're going to probably end up having some struggles, since matchups can be put together to game plan that and scheme that out of the works. So, yeah, interesting matchup. Auburn is a team to watch out for. It's definitely an upset game. We'll probably go into that as the favorite, maybe just inside of a touchdown or something like that. 4 or 5 points. Could balloon up a little past that, depending on how we do against Notre Dame, but watch out for this team. Auburn's a team to watch out for sure. And there are a number of teams on this list to watch out for. Now, at this point, we could be at this situation where this right here is still on, right? I'm just going to say, all the way through UTSA, Utah State, Notre Dame, and Auburn. These are all winnable games, and I'm not shaving this off until we lose. So we could get to the end of September, and this is starting to look kind of gnarly, okay? And then I'm starting to worry about whether or not we're getting to like no shave November or something. because next up after that's Mississippi State. Now Mississippi State's they're basically in a complete rebuild phase. Jeff Lebby did not have the year he wanted to. They go 2-10, and it's really you can't characterize this, I think, any different than just saying they were in year zero last year. They're in like year 0.5 this year. It's not year one. I mean, they're just starting completely over. I think they've got Shapen back as the QB, but other than that, it's just a lot of turnover. A lot of turnover. They're reshaping this team altogether. I mean, let's just go. I mean, I'm not going to get into the predictions yet, but I mean, you can tell by the way my mannerisms are with this one. My rhetoric is, I don't think this is going to be a loss for us. I mean, we're going to get them at home, so that's going to be a big deal. I will shape into that a little bit more when we get back to the full-on prediction, but there's not much more to say about Mississippi State. We haven't had good luck with them traditionally. So, I mean, I would caution for that sort of thing. Normally, I'm a big believer in, you can't just chalk up wins to good matchups on paper, because inevitably a team is going to have that game where they're not playing their A game. They're not, probably hitting on all cylinders. But that's not going to be the case here. There's no way this team's coming in here. So be that as it may, there's Mississippi State in a quick nutshell, but it's really pretty easily summarized by knowing just those facts on what you want to do with that type of pick. The bigger interest probably is going to be whether or not we can cover the spread. Last year we were 3-10 versus the spread. Can we be better than that this year? I mean, A&M cost me money last year, y'all. It cost me money. I couldn't beat the spread to save my life, right? I kept thinking, but Elko's working on that. So now we bring to town Florida. Florida's come to town. We've got Lagway coming in. We saw him just a little bit last year. He is a high-end quarterback, high-end quarterback, but there's been some questions surrounding his health. He's been seen with a boot on. He's been out of practice. He's been out of the practice game notes as well. Not practice game notes, excuse me, the practice notes. And he's been missing from action for a little bit, not necessarily as of recent, but within the last 2 weeks, he's been missing some camp. Not a whole lot, but there is some questions there. Not to mention, there's also some questions about wide receivers and what kind of reps they're getting. So they're experiencing a fair amount of injuries going on right now. He is expected to be a real high performer. I think I'm going to probably sit and wait on this one just a little bit on my assessment of Lagway. When you look at the teams across the SEC that A&M is going to be playing this year, you're gonna see a bit of a trend here in quite a few of these teams. Florida being one of them, that you really have a team that's, of course, we're kind of in the same situation with Marcel Reed, but he did play 8 games. Lagway did play quite a few games, and he had some success down the stretch. They really had some good momentum coming down the end there. But I'd like to see a little bit more of what he can do on the whole stretch when it's all him, and everything's on his shoulders. So I think there's going to be some there. He's got some questions of accuracy and not so much down the field accuracy, but just the short 5 to 10 yard routes. Whether or not he can throw under pressure and some of those kinds of things. Now, to help him out, though, he will have a decent O-line back. They bring back a lot of experience on the O-line. Same thing on the defensive line. Number 4th defensive line grade in the country by PFF. So defense has a chance to be great. Offense has a shot to be pretty good as well. This team is difficult to handicap. They really, really are. They probably have a ceiling of, I'd say 10-2 at least. At least 10-2 is their ceiling. But they're low, while not that low. I'd probably give them a shot of like 60-70% chance they're going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 7-8 versus a 30% chance that they're going to be in the 9-10 win range. 9 being quite a bit more possible than 10. But they've got the talent where it needs to be. Quarterback, wide receiver, offensive line looking good. Defense is quality. So on both sides of the ball, they look pretty good. but what's going to be going on health wise with this team? And yeah, so I just got some questions going on there that's going to kind of factor into what I think is going to happen here. Probably we kind of run into the same issues when it comes to matchup with Florida, though. Marcel is only 8 games in, looking to make some strides, making to he wants to be a guy that's going to be able to pass now, just like Lagway. All the criticisms of accuracy and whatnot. So we kind of stack up very, very similar to this. We probably have a little bit better O line. Wide receiver core is about the same. Running backs probably go in our favor in this one. Defensive line definitely in their favor with that. Like I said, number 4 grade for the defensive line. Linebackers and secondary and cornerbacks probably go to us at this point. But their quality on the defense throughout. So heck of a matchup. Watch out for this team. No matter what I pick on this one, it could go either way. I will say that it could go either way. And the same thing goes for this next matchup at Archie. This is the first time we're going to Arkansas. I should have looked it up before I started this to find out when's the last time we were actually in Arkansas. This series is going to be going on for 13 years, and that was the rekindling somewhere back in 2010. Ooh, so it's more like 15 or 16 years, right? But first matchup in a long while away from Jerry's world. And Arkansas's got a tough schedule, second hardest schedule. They will have played Notre Dame in the out-of-conference schedule as well, so we'll get to kind of see something there before we play them and get a one-to-one comparison on matchup. They only got 5 of their 16 defenders who played at least 300 snaps, including Landon Jackson, their defensive end, back. So they're really losing out on a lot of quality on the defensive line side. Just defensive side altogether. Again, only 5 of their top 16 defenders are actually coming back when it comes to those that played at least 300 snaps. With that said, Taylon Green is somebody that I personally believe can do a Lagway or Lenora Sellers type of job. We're talking about a 6'6" guy, 230 pounds, who transferred from Boise, comes in and does a pretty nice job last year. And I think he can take over a game at pretty much any time. And I think his ceiling is also so high that it's a team that, again, can't be slept on. I know we want that point at which Arkansas is going to be that bit of a pushover and not beat us up, especially before a game against LSU at LSU, which is coming up next. It's just not the case here. It really is just not the case here. They lose 2 of their best offensive line, but they go to the portal. They're trying to, I guess, rebuild there, but also make it a reload. And of course, this is true for every single team. Every team's going in the transfer portal, and they want to have these guys come in and step up and be productive. But will that be the case? I don't know. Their secondary has the biggest questions of all, and really, portal additions need to work out. The story here, in my opinion, is going to be what's happening at this time of year. Are they getting ready to revolt, or are they actually going to be ready to rally around Taylon Green? Big questions there. Answering that question is the key to figuring out who wins this game, in my opinion. So next up at LSU, probably projected definitely top 5 quarterback here. So we're getting into possible top 4 college football playoff teams at this point. When you're starting into this category about what everybody thinks about Nussmeier, they think he is a top 5 quarterback. To get, in my opinion, to get to the college football playoff, you need to have elite QB play, or at least well above average. It can be somewhat serviceable, but almost no team makes it without having elite play. Nussmeier can give you that. I know he didn't do well against us, and I'm real happy about that. I mean, I sometimes see, whenever I close my eyes, like I'm watching the game again, and he's chewing on his mouthpiece and pulling his chin straps down because he doesn't know what just happened when York intercepted this man. Truth is we put a lot of pressure on him last year, and that's been the key to getting to this team, is putting pressure on Nussmeier, making him make mistakes. questions loom on this one for me are when and where is this going to, not where, we know it's at LSU, but is it going to be played at night or during the day? Night game would be interesting. It could be a game day matchup. Okay. Now, what you need to know about this team, in addition to Nussmeier, is that they lose a good portion of the O-line. They have a solid running back room, and their wide receiver room is probably on the upper end of I mean, not elite, not average, a bit better than that, right? The D is improving. They're headlined by Harold Perkins. You know Harold Perkins. He's the hat burner, right? He takes this kind of hat, he sets it on fire, and he got what he deserved from that. He's been injured for the last year, but he's coming back, and they think they think he's going to lead this defense. That's what they think is going to happen. That might be the case, but I can't stop thinking about him getting trucked by A&M guy. Who was that did that? Was it a chain? Yeah, I think it was. So we'll see what happens. We're going into Death Valley. That's got to factor in somehow, right? So, the story here is what they did in the portal. Can they replace 3 linemen? At this point in the year, who's going to be more physical? And, they're going to have some momentum. They closed out the season last year, so they really think that they can do well here. And that might be inflating the predictions. So just a little teaser for my predictions. Between Notre Dame and LSU, I have at least one win in this whole place. At least one win. Okay? So you might want to stay tuned to see which one it's going to be. Or is it going to be both? Maybe both. Okay? But it's going to be at least one. So the over-under is 8.5. The responses to that are actually pretty varied. A lot of people think that they could go over, and then a lot of are like that they could go under. It really hinges on what they think about the quarterback. Do they really buy into him, or do they not? Here's my thought on this, right? So in a league right now where there's been quite a bit of QB turnover, where you don't have the QB turnover, I think is a place you probably want to err not on this. You don't have to err on the side of caution. So you could take the over on this one of 8.5 wins and go with 9, maybe 10, something like that. I think 10-2 is probably their season, and be pretty comfortable with that. I think Nussmeier gives you enough to get through the schedule, which is pretty reasonable. That they'll probably come into this game with a nice record, maybe 1 loss, I think, at most, and we'll see who comes out as the better team. Really handy time at this point. After LSU, we're going to slip into a bye, and then we're going to go to Mizzou. I hate going to Mizzou. It's the worst game to watch on television. The angles are horrible. I think they're doing an upgrade there. Missouri, I need you to get on this pretty quick. I need you to revamp this thing. I need better camera angles. I need it to be higher to the side and more, okay? Yeah. So I hate it, but they're a decent team. They are a decent team. They are inserting a new guy for all intents and purposes. It looks like it's going to be him, and I'm going to butcher his name. Bo Prabula, QB from Penn State. He's backup QB at Penn State this last year. Basically, has had no snaps, and he's a dual threat guy. I like the idea that he's a dual threat for them. They do lose some stuff at wide receiver, including Luther Burton III. Remember this guy from last year? We basically shut down and did the opposite of what they said they were going to do to us in this whole blanket gate thing. Love that. But to bolster what they want to do on offense, they've added some really good quality at the offensive line, including Caden Green. This guy's he's a top 10 center, maybe even better, just depending on how you want to look at it. But they've done a lot in the portal, and just like everybody else, they think it's going to work out. Will it work out? Will it not work out? What's going to be happening at this time during the season? And what's their identity going to be? I think that's the big question for Missouri. What's their identity? A&M at this point, as I'm predicting, will have an identity at this point in the season. So probably going to factor in my prediction on this one. Afterwards, we welcome in South Carolina. Now, South Carolina's got the 2 best athletes in college football. Probably. Probably. I mean, Lenore Sellers and you got Dylan Stewart. Lenore Sellers at QB, maybe the best quarterback in the nation. I mean, some are saying this, right? A lot are saying this. Some are not, but they probably have him in the top 5 if they don't. He's a big guy. He is strong. He doesn't come without criticisms. That's to be sure. They think that he can get better at the short to mid-range ball too. Same thing that's kind of going on for Lagway. If he can figure out a way to not have turnovers and to not get sacked and to get the ball out at the 5 to 10 yard range, they feel like they've got a world beater here. Honestly, I think that they're right if that comes through as well. He's got a good long ball. He's got the legs. He's a hellacious matchup to plan for. Not something you want. That's for certain. And it's just as much as he's a matchup nightmare. Dylan Stewart on the opposite side on defensive end is just the same. He's probably everything that we thought we were going to get out of our defensive ends last year. I think they're probably going to have more of that come to fruition this year. Dylan Stewart is a beast. He definitely brings comparisons to Jadeveon Clowney. Pump the brakes a little bit. Let's be honest, that's probably not the case, but still the comparison is there. Doesn't mean he has to be exactly like the guy, but he's got that sort of talent going on with him, right? Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Harbor. I believe it's Nick Harbor at wide receiver. This guy is like 6'5", 6'6". He's 230. Guy is fast as all get out. And because you've got these 3 guys, this team, in my opinion, with they are losing 3 offensive linemen, but if they can find a way to replace those 3 with any kind of decent quality, you've got a team that when they put something together is going to beat, it could probably beat anyone. These guys, do you remember the game? It was at the Alabama, I think, 2 years ago. And I want to say it was Isaiah Bond before he transferred to Texas and all that kind of stuff. And he just handled us. It was like we couldn't cover him to save our life. And if South Carolina has anything like that, this team is going to be unbeatable on those days. Purely unbeatable on those days. They lost Rocket Sanders. Remember Rocket Sanders? He's been around the block over at Arkansas and around and back. They lose a couple of guys in defensive end. Kennard, can't remember his first name off the top of my head, but NFL takes him away. So interesting thought about how that's going to affect over on the other side, Dylan Stewart, but he was their other big guy last year for defensive end, making them respect both sides, and that definitely helped out. Can they get the same production out of their defensive end on the opposite side of Stewart this year? That has yet to be seen. So Samford up next. It's going to be an absolute mollywop. Rusty Bucket Stomp. Okay, if you're from East Texas, that's what I'm told it's called out there, but it's just going to be a thrash, right? So we get to see Miles O'Neill against Samford, and I'm all for that. Can't wait to see that guy. And definitely going to be a lot of E.J. Smith in there. Becoming a big fan of this guy day to day very quickly. He's a big fan. Then we got to go to DKR. Then we're going to Texas, right? And you know about this team. Talking about basically fresh QB, Arch Manning. They think he's going to be the one. They've got a heck of a running back room. Not getting as many accolades as they probably should. Returning some guys on the offensive line, but actually kind of almost in a rebuild. So the story here with Texas is going to be, can they reload? Can they reload, or are they rebuilding when it comes to these areas, right? So on the outside, they've got Moore and Wingo. Not sure who they're trying to get to replace Gunnar Helm at this point. If you can, we got Nyblack, right? And that seemed like the logical conclusion there. I'm sure they're probably going to figure out somebody with Sark. But if all of that, were it, you'd still have to contend with the defense. And the defense is the number one. It's number one defense at this point. I mean, they got a number one defensive line, not number one, top 10 defensive line. They got Anthony Hill at linebacker, Colin Simmons on the defensive end edge, and they got a bunch of dudes in the secondary. So it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a very, very tough game going there. So that is the season in a nutshell. So let's talk about prediction. What's my prediction game by game? No secret, no secret. UTSA, and I'll give you a sneak peek for the preview, right? UTSA. I mean, this is going to be a comfortable win. Could be close at half. I think it probably will be close. This is not going to be like an Appalachian State upset kind of situation. I don't think that's the mantra for an Elko team at this point at all. Okay. Now, they've got a solid offensive line. They've got a good wide receiving core. QB is solid. The defense just leaves way too much to question. So we're going to score early. We're going to score often. We're going to be really explosive. I think we're probably going to be oohing and eyeing on this game. Okay. Win. Utah State, handy win. Let's move on. Notre Dame. That's where, again, I was saying that the identity has to be found. We're playing in South Bend. They've got the best running back duo. We're right up there with them, though. So this is going to be the game of offensive lines and who can dominate on the ground game. They have a few guys, like I said, that are returning, some question marks at offensive line, but they've proven that they can replace these guys. Ultimately, though, I will say, I think that this game is close, and I think it comes down to a 2-minute drill at the end. Now, question is, who can run the 2-minute drill best? Marcel Reed, CJ Carr. CJ Carr has taken virtually 0 snaps. This is going to be early in the season. Marcel Reed has shown that he can run that 2-minute drill. He did it against USC in the bowl game. He's gotten some big wins under his belt. I think that definitely lends itself to Marcel Reed. I will take A&M in a close one. I'm thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of 20-17. It's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of under 42, under 44 points of total score. Okay, so we're 3-0 at this point. We're going to go into the bye, and we're going to get to Auburn, the first of 2 big revenge games. Okay, so A&M gets this game at home. Like I said, it's going to be after a bye, revenge game. Auburn is playing on an emotional game. This is not highlighted as much as I've seen, but they go to OU the previous week. Okay, Jackson Arnold's former team. Jackson Arnold has a lot of questions going on. Lots of questions. Is he that quarterback last year, or is he this new thing that they've got going on that's got wide receivers, that's got an offensive line? And can he be the 5-star quarterback that he wanted to be? He's got to prove all of that to the haters the week before. He has to. He has to. And then he's got to come in to Kyle Field. And you and me going to be screaming. And how's that going to work out? For me, that's not going to work out good. It's not going to work out good. I think it's going to be an emotional drain altogether. I think whatever that game comes out, they're going to come out slow. I think what they really need to do if they're going to come into Kyle Field and beat us is they're going to need a defense. And I just don't see that quite being the case. You got to have a defense if you're going to go win away. So A&M wins. At this point, I've got us 4-0. Welcoming in Mississippi State to Kyle Field too. I've already made my thoughts known on this one. We will go through it quick, and that's it. Jeff Lebby just doesn't have the team right now. They're, like I said, 2-10 last year. It's almost just a full-on redo, a second try. We're going to win this one. Should be handy. Florida coming to town. They play number 9, number 10, and number 1 Texas. Of course, Texas is not number 9, number 10, and number 1. They play the number 9 team, number 10 team, and then they play Texas, the number 1 team in the nation, 3 out of the previous 4 weeks coming into this matchup, right? Is Lagway going to be healthy? Are the wide receivers going to be healthy? There's just too many questions in this game, in my opinion, at this point, and they're playing at Kyle Field. But if everything is clicking, I'm going to tell you, they have a very high ceiling. I have A&M to win this game, but I am saying right now, watch out for the upset, okay? And this will factor into some of the other things I'm gonna do with my predictions for the rest of the games, because ultimately, a win-loss total for the entire year is not just made up of single games. It's made up of matchups and runs and groupings and how those all groupings match up. What the identity of the team is historically and games that they could possibly drop, okay? So I'll factor this kind of back in just a little bit in the back here, okay? But we're going to Archie. We're going to go to Arkansas. We're going to go play in Fayetteville. Like I said, I love Taylor Green, but unless they rally around Pittman, I think the emotions have them also in this game early because they're wanting to get behind Pittman. They like Taylor Green. They want to play well for Petrino and all this stuff. But if you look at what the outside voices are going to be saying, there are going to be questions around, is Pittman going to be gone? Is Petrino going to take over? They come into this game 3-3, or worse than that, 2-4. Pittman could already be gone. And you remember how it was when we basically lost Jimbo. For the last 4 games of the year? We did okay, but not great. Leading into that beforehand, there's going to be a lot of questions here. I don't think they're going to be able to avoid these, and I think they're going to be a huge, huge distraction. It could be that this stadium is completely empty by the time we get there if things don't go decent in their first 6 games. Okay, so the Petrino will Petrino take over by midseason? The people that are going to be calling for that, I think they're going to be just too much to overcome. I have A&M winning this one. I can't wait to see how they do against Notre Dame. They played Tennessee the week before us, so it's a brutal schedule. It's a brutal schedule for them. It doesn't look good. So I've got A&M, and at this point, man, I promised I would not have maroon sunglasses. I promised I would not have maroon Kool-Aid just gushing out. I won't do that. But we are 7-0 right now, is what I've got. So we go to LSU. So that's where it comes to an end for me. All right. So I got one of two of these games, Notre Dame, LSU. I've got us winning Notre Dame, but not LSU. We go to LSU. I think it's probably going to be a night game. Could be game day there. The streak, I would say, continues in multiple ways with the back and forth with LSU only winning the home games. Whoever the home team is tends to win this. We don't make our record look any better when playing with game day at this point. I do think that we are good enough against this team to make it look like we're in the ballpark. I think it's going to be a small letdown, though, because we've just played a real tough schedule. Like, we've just come out of Arkansas, tries to beat us up. They always do, no matter what kind of team they field. We played Florida, we played Notre Dame, and even Auburn was tough. And at this point, we just don't quite have our A game. I don't think LSU's that great. I don't think that they're that 10-2, 11-1 type of team. I do not. I think they've got a solid team through and through. Not a lot of high-end talent necessarily, but I think they're going to be more consistent. Nuss will be a little bit better, and at home, I think they'll be able to get it done. So I think we lose a close one. It's going to be a moderate letdown because we just came out of 7-1, and it's going to be like, oh, remember the 2016s when we go 5-0, 6-0, and then lose the next one or next 3. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to go to LSU. I think we're going to get knocked off. We're going to go into the bye. We're going to get some rest, and we're going to go to Missouri. Now, Missouri's a quality team. Like I was saying before, they're a quality team. I think they will be a quality team, but the story is going to be physicality. This team that we're going to be fielding this year is going to have a secondary mantra going on. It's going to be about physicality. It's going to be about domination. It's going to be about forcing their will. Finally, as people have been saying infamously, they will finally be doing that on these types of teams. They don't have a lot of upper end talent. They're about a 7-5 over/under team. I think A&M is probably going to pull away late, probably a slow start coming out of the bye and a letdown. But ultimately, I think A&M will pull it out because they're going to be that type of team that when they don't play their full game, they can lean on the running game and they can just hammer that, make enough plays through the air that we probably swing this one a little bit late. I think we probably pull away late in the third quarter. Fourth quarter is not too bad. Okay. South Carolina comes to town after Missouri. This is another revenge game. It's another one we'd really like to have back. We're getting back to that Auburn game, and whereas they didn't make a bowl game last year, they go 5-7, and we dropped that pass in the end zone against Auburn to force another overtime. South Carolina kind of just really, man, they kind of hammered us a bit. It didn't, to a degree, it didn't feel like we were in the game. I think even one point we were tied. Am I misremembering that? Were we tied at one point or really close to it? Not at the beginning of the game. Don't do that. That's not fair. I'm talking about like second quarter into close to the half. I'll have to check back, maybe misremembering, but I just still never felt like we were in this game. So even though it's another revenge game, we're going to have a lot to deal with in this game. And like I was showing before, between their upper end talent and everybody they're bringing onto the field, even though they're coming into town, at this point, I do think it's going to be a loss. I think this is going to be a bit of a loss here and a letdown. I think this is the game they're going to put it together, make it 2 in a row on us, and they're going to start talking. They're going to start talking after this game because it's going to be what, like 3 out of the last 4 years or something weird like that. But here's the deal with this game. This is where I want to circle back a little bit. But so between South Carolina, Archie, and Auburn, I think we're going to win, say, 2 out of those 3 games. Now, we could beat South Carolina, but then lose to, say, Arkansas or Auburn. I think something is going to play in that area where, we're still building culture. We're still learning how to play that championship football. And then we come into South Carolina, maybe we win that one, but it was Taylor Green that had the game of his life, and we lost that one. I think there's going to be some things that make sense. South Carolina comes in, and Lenore Sellers is not quite on top of his game, and then we take that one. That sort of stuff happens all the time. And so I think in any kind of prediction that really wants to do its viewers any service, they should think about those kinds of things, and they should take that into account as best they can. And so I think something like that's going to be playing with those 3 games. Okay, maybe we come away with an upset at LSU. I definitely think that's possible. That could be the game too. But something between those games, there's going to be some give and take. Okay, and then we're going to roll into Sanford. We're going to squash that, right? Squash that, and then we got to not into Sanford. They're coming to us. Let's be clear. They're coming to us. We don't go to Sanford. Okay, don't go to Sanford. What we do go to, though, is at Texas. And this is going to be the biggest game at DKR in a decade. Maybe, well, since the last time we played there, probably, essentially, it's going to be the biggest game that they've had in a long, long time. So this matchup at Darrell Royal, we're going to go into this 9-2. Okay, I feel pretty confident we're going to go into this 9-2. We're playing a really, really good team. They have a lot of high-end talent. They've got a lot of quality throughout. I think Arch is going to do just enough to make this game go the way they need to. Ultimately, the defense is just too good. They're just really too good. With that said, we take an L here. Okay, we ended up in the season 9-3. 9-3. I think it's a very good season. I'd love to have that season, to be quite honest. 9-3. 10-2 is in play. 10-2 is big time in play. I just want to highlight the idea of what this team is going to be doing, right? We're going to be needing to manage injuries, which leads me into my first bold prediction that I'm giving to you here. We will start and end the season with the same quarterback. Can you believe that? What if that happens? I definitely think 10-2 comes into play as a possibility. Will it happen? Not saying that. I think 9-3 is the way to go. How do we get to 10-2? We get to 10-2 if our quarterback stays healthy the entire year. Okay, that's one way to do it. Maybe in a combination with a couple other things. Second prediction, though. So just quickly, snowballing with this loss. I think we play Texas again at some point. What a prediction that would be if that's pretty bold. That's pretty bold. We're going to play Texas again. Let's see who gets the last laugh. That's my second bold prediction. How does this team get to 10-2? I'll give you some other things. It's not an X's and O's so much, y'all. I just don't feel that way. I think we're going to start knowing some stuff in the first 2 games, definitely coming through Notre Dame, whether or not you can get a good idea about how this team's going to play. Are they watch UTSA? Are they dominating this team like we've known that they're supposed to do? Like just utterly dominating them when they're supposed to? Are they scoring easy? What does the physicality of this team look like? Watch for those things. If you can see a market change in those things, I think you bring 10 and 2 into the conversation. I think you do. Okay. It's going to be a fun season either way. I am great to be back doing these previews. I will be doing a UTSA preview for sure coming up this next week because we got football in 1 week, y'all. And don't forget, if you just watched this and you thought any of this was good, don't subscribe. This was for you, not for me. I love y'all. We'll see you for the preview for UTSA. And if nothing else, I'll see you at Kyle. Thanks and gig 'em.